Friends, welcome back to Devops Titan. Today we are going to discuss question 1. This is the first question in CKA exam question series. We have 30 plus questions, very well designed to make you have a feel of actual exam questions, very to the point questions and explained step by step. The questions which I am going to discuss in this YouTube video is also explained in the blog, so you can follow the blog and the video together, or if you want to give a try, you are stuck at somewhere, you can follow this video. Okay, before we start, if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing it. Some part of the video or some part of this exam series might not be available for everyone. It is only available for YouTube subscriber. So please consider subscribing and also click on the bell icon so that whenever I release a new video, you are being notified. So let's start the first question. The question is, this question is based on service account, cluster role, and cluster role binding. So the question is, create a new cluster role named demo cluster role in demo namespace. Any resources associated with the cluster role should be able to create following resources: deployment, useful, StatefulSet, DaemonSet. Create a service account named demo token and bind service cluster role with the service account. Okay, you can also see on the blogs there is a small voting. You can also vote and express your views. If you see the result, around 50% of the audience like you, they have voted and they said yeah, they got a very similar question in their exam. Some 8% they have voted no, they did not get similar question in their exam, and many of us, they have not appeared for the exam yet, but they felt this video is helpful, this question was helpful to them. So you can also express your opinion, and let's start. Let's check the solution. So if you want to give a try, pause this video, give a try at your end, and if you are stuck, then resume the video and see the remaining section of this video course. On this blog, there is also a timer. If you want to give it a try, start the timer. Try to attempt with your best effort to make this question, to solve this question within 5 minutes. Moment you are done, stop the timer and see if you are able to achieve that question you are able to solve within 5 minutes or not. Okay, so in order to solve this question, as per the question, the very first step is create a demo namespace. In your real exam, the namespace might already exist, but since you are practicing it on locally on your system, the first step is create a namespace. Here I have mentioned demo namespace. There might be a CKA namespace, or it can be anything. So make sure you if the namespace is not created, create the namespace, but 99% chances they will have the namespace. Okay, so just you directly create required resources. So once the namespace is created in the step first, next step is create the service account. So service account, use imperative command to create service account. So the command is kubectl create service account, and then the name of the service account. So as per the question, the name of the service account should be demo token. Okay, so create the service account, and service account is scoped under namespace. Okay, so mention the namespace which is mentioned in the question, that is demo namespace. You can copy the same command here and execute it on your terminal if you are stuck, so that you can create a service account. Next step is create a cluster rule. So cluster rules are cluster wide. If you just give kubectl get cluster role, then you might find on a default cluster, you might find more than 50 or 100 roles are available. So there are so many roles comes by default when we set up a Kubernetes cluster, and these roles are available within the cluster to any service account. They can use this role. So here in this question, we are going to create a new cluster role. Okay, and to create a cluster role, the commands are very straightforward. kubectl create cluster role, and at the time of creating cluster role, we are also going to assign the resources. Okay, so deployments, stateful sets, and daemon sets, these resources are added inside the role. So when we create a role, we are assigning so if I try to explain what is role is, like it's kind of a access group we are creating, and in that we are trying to attach certain resources where that role can have access. So beyond this deployment, stateful sets, and daemon set, if you are using this role, you might not be able to perform the action, and what action you can perform, that is defined under verb. Okay, so here I am going to give the action which this role can perform is create, and it can create resources like deployment sets, stateful sets, daemon sets. Okay, again, using this role, you can only create, you cannot delete, because if you want to give that delete, then also you can mention here delete, create, delete. So at this, as per this question, we only need to assign verb create, and make sure that you only mention the verb which is mentioned in the question. Do not try to add extra verbs. If you have practice, and the moment you saw the question in exam and you try to do something extra, please don't do that. Okay, there is a small note here. The cluster role and cluster role bindings are created at cluster level, not at the namespace level. So please check this. Now once the cluster role is created, okay, so kubectl describe cluster role. We just now created cluster role, right? Here the demo cluster role created. Once you have created cluster role, describe it to see that what this cluster role uh, your what you were targeting the cluster role has. One moment. So here, if we describe this cluster role, you see that the resources which are mentioned in the questions is there in that or not, whether the cluster role has created properly. So you will see all these resources which is there as per the question are listed under the resource, and the verb is create. Okay, so exactly it's matching as per the requirement. Do all these things very quickly in the exam. Create, describe, make sure it is as per the question, and move on to the next step. Okay, so we created service account. So service account is like a user uh, who will use the role. Okay, now but the service account is a separate Kubernetes object. Cluster role binding which we created is a separate Kubernetes object. Both the service account and cluster role don't know about each other. Now using this role binding, we are going to bind this service account. Okay, which is if in a normal if in a general term, if I say service account is like a user who will log into your system, and the cluster role is like the policy and the access once the user log in, what he can do. So user is separate object right now, and cluster role is a separate. Using this binding, we are going to bind these together. Okay, so create cluster role binding, demo cluster role binding. This is the name. I think this is the name given in the question. If it is not, no, there is no name defined here in the question, so you can choose any name, whatever name you want, if the question has not given the name for the cluster role binding. So I have taken demo cluster role binding as a name. You can take ABCD, whatever you want. And the command is kubectl create cluster role binding, and then give the name of the role binding. After that, define the binding components now. So the first part is cluster role. So it is going to bind this cluster role, demo cluster role, and service account, this demo namespace, demo token. So always namespace, when we define a service account, then before that we have to mention namespace in which that service account is. So here this cluster role binding, demo cluster role binding, is going to bind this cluster role with this namespace. Okay, so now this service account. So once you execute this command, you will see that cluster role binding is created, demo cluster role binding is created, right? Now, so we have, as per the question, if we see the, we have created namespace, we have created service account, and we have created cluster role and cluster role binding. Now the time has come to validate. So if you get this question, you can try to execute all these commands, similar commands in your exam, and try to achieve it within 5 minutes. It is very much possible. You can do it in a couple of minutes itself, but don't forget to validate it at the end. So to validate, its command is very simple: kubectl auth can I. So this is a standard you can practice. When you practice this, is the kubectl auth can I. This is the first part, and after that you mention what verb you mentioned in your while you were creating cluster role, what verb you mentioned. So we mentioned create, and what was the resource where this service account can create. So service account has been given resources which were mentioned in the cluster rule was deployment, then give a namespace named demo namespace, okay, and as service account. So what we are actually trying to check here, that the service account which you have created, whether that service account using the cluster role which we created, will it be able to create deployment set or not, or will it be create deployment or not. So here if you see here, as, so system is going to execute the command create a deployment under this namespace, assuming that you are right now as demo token service account. Okay, so this command is checking if demo token under demo namespace can create deployment in demo namespace or not. If you get an answer yes, that means you have achieved what was expected from you in the exam. Okay, so you have created service account exactly in the same way. Similarly, we can check, assuming that you are demo token using, assuming that the service account demo token can create DaemonSet in namespace demo namespace or not. So you can execute the same command kubectl auth can I create deployment in demo namespace, assuming the user is service demo token service account under demo namespace. Okay, so this demo token service account is created inside demo namespace only. So this service account cannot create, if you try to change here the namespace here, demo namespace, try to give any other namespace, cube system or any namespace which you have created, your answer here instead of yes, it will be no. It should come no. So you can also give a negative check one. So like if you see at the end I have given a negative check. So kubectl auth can I create role, can I create role hyphen. So here instead of create DaemonSet, I have given a role. Like there are a number of Kubernetes objects which can be created, deleted, listed. Okay, so previously I was giving StatefulSet, DaemonSet, and deployment as per the rules, as per the resources which we had added in the question. This time I'm trying to give something different which we have not defined inside the cluster role which we created. Okay, so this is role. Can I create role? Okay, under demo namespace, and assuming that I am demo token service account. The response came as no, you cannot, because the cluster role has access only to create, and creating of what? DaemonSet, StatefulSet, and deployment. Okay, so if you are able to reproduce this kind of result at the end, then you can very confidently say that this was helpful. You have achieved your goal, and you can move to the next question. This entire process can be completed within 2 to 3 minutes, and if you are taking time around 5 to 6 minutes, then practice it over and over again, and try to speed up yourself. Try to increase your speed to complete this question within a couple of minutes. Okay, so hope you would have liked it. Please leave us your comment, and like, share this video. Let us know if you felt that there should be something extra enhancement or changes in this video on this blog. If you are new to DevOps Titan website, please consider checking it. We update the post every week, so you will have couple of new posts every week. Under CKA practice question, you will be able to see all the questions, sample questions. Here we have 1 to 30 questions, so please try to go through it. Some questions might be restricted, which everyone might not be able to view, so please consider subscribing so that you get access to all the questions. So questions are free, but some questions are restricted only for the channel subscriber, so please subscribe so that you can have access to all the questions. Thank you, hope you would have liked it.